Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different here on the podcast. The following conversation is from an Instagram live I did with one of our Feral Self Care Collective guest speakers. The Feral Self Care Collective is our seasonal membership program, and the spring season called FROLIC starts April 14th. Get 12 weeks of actionable tools, practices, and experiences with live sessions, guest speakers, and more. So check the link in the description to grab your spot today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank
And
you so much for being here.
thank you for inviting me. Yes, we're brave witches doing an Instagram live during a retrograde, but it's all right. I made it
Yeah,
in.
Yeah, and it's so great to see you. So we have a bunch of people here. There is someone from Saskatchewan, somebody from Germany. I love that, it's funny. I talk a lot of shit about tech, but I love that it allows us to be able to reach people from all over the world. Every so often when I get really down on these platforms and tech and all of these things, I remind myself, I'm like, you speak to people in Scotland, you talk to people in the same, like, would you ever have been able to do that without the internet? So I have to give myself a kick in the ass to have a little gratitude. So welcome, Flora. Flora, I'm super excited to be on a live here with you today, not only because you're going to be one of the guest speakers for the collective, but also everybody watching this. Flora's my neighbor. Like I could probably yell out my window right now, Flora, and you could probably like yell back and we could hear each other.
It's pretty cool.
It is very cool. Um, so Flora, first of all, why don't you just introduce yourself and let everybody know kind of what you do and what you're all about. So as you guys know, I love sound healing, and Flora does some really fucking cool stuff when it comes to the voice and coaching and all of that.
Yeah.
And you're also a wonderful musician. I did find your Spotify. So
Yes, my journey started very, very young as a singer. I've been singing since I was a kid, and I did pursue a professional singing career, professional music career in my 20s. And it's a tough go being an independent musician. But 20 years ago as well, I was introduced to sound healing with an emphasis on vocal sound healing. And so already my passion and my training and my spiritual path, like it was just the perfect marriage. And so since that time, I've just been on my own personal journey like everyone else. But really, for the last 20 years, on and off, teaching workshops, working with clients one on one. I'm a vocal coach and a songwriting coach, and offering ceremonies and spaces to experience sound healing. And as a practicing witch for 30 years now, I can't imagine doing ceremony or ritual without some kind of sacred sound or using my voice.
that's amazing. I have to ask just because out of curiosity. Now, as you know, I love sound healing stuff. When it comes to the voice, though, there's like an extra bit of potency there because you're actually like using your body, you're using that kind of like self-expression energy center. And so I bet you have some wild stories either from yourself or from your clients of like, I guess what I'm asking is what is one of like the coolest, wildest stories of somebody beginning to work with their voice and what the result of that was?
Mm. Well, I think that the coolest, wildest thing that actually I see repeated is a deep reckoning and ultimately release of old blocks in the throat chakra from childhood, but even past lives. I really hold space for that kind of past life recapitulation or just holding that because often it can come up spontaneously and can really shock people when they have when we're in that deep journey and it's like, when did these blocks first start around your voice? And then it's like way back. So that's something that now to me is actually something that I expect. I expect that in the first few sessions in working one-on-one with a client, we're going to be unearthing some of those old limitations. And yes, it can be a bit gnarly and uncomfortable, but I think it's really cool because the liberation from that release and the healing, and then seeing them just feel so much more free and confident with their voice.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's so funny because in the modern world, particularly for women, although I'm sure for all of us to some degree, there's such a it feels like a collective block we have when it comes to self-expression and like setting boundaries or like communicating our needs and our wants and our desires and stuff. And so I think that's one of these things that we might not, I mean, if you're not into sound healing or into that sort of vocal stuff, it might be easy to see those things as separate, but this is one of those things that can really get past your brain bullshit and allow you to show up to life in general in a more like self-expressed way. And I just feel like that's something that people need so, so badly.
Mm-hmm.
Have
Yeah.
you seen that in your experience as well? Like people being able to communicate better?
Yeah, absolutely. And communication improves, just the confidence and the willingness to speak up, to speak their truth. Certainly anyone that's in business, an entrepreneur, needs to have a strong channel of communication, not only for speaking, but there's so much writing, right? And that's, we're also communicating and creating. And one of my favorite results that, not everyone has shared with me, also I can't say that all my clients have gotten these results, but some of them that have shared with me is that their sex lives are so much better.
I love that so much. So just on that note, because that's like obviously very titillating and like piquing the curiosity, what would you maybe, if you had to like guess what you could attribute that to, what would it be, the just that communication piece, or is it just more about somebody being able to be so free and liberated that they enjoy that experience more?
Yeah. I don't need to guess. It's from the confidence to speak up for what they want, or what they think, but it's also just very tangibly, or I guess I'm talking about like physically, when we have a clear channel from our sacral chakra up through our heart and out the mouth, when we're making love and when we're moving those tantric energies, off the hook.
I love that. That's so amazing. And like definitely one of those, I was not expecting to hear that, but that is always something that is very welcome.
Right. And I'm really inspired by what your approach is to self-care, and I'm so grateful and thrilled that you've invited me to be a guest teacher in the feral self-care, the self-care rebellion that you're leading here, because we can very easily, especially in this consumerist culture, think that we need to buy one more thing and then we'll really be able to do our self-care, or that it's still like about having the right things,
Yeah.
right? We all have a voice. We were born with
Yes.
it. We don't need to go out to the store, go on Amazon and buy anything. Simply humming is one of the most effective ways to soothe our nervous system that there is. So I'm really inspired to just share some very practical and easy and affordable techniques and ways to incorporate the voice as a sacred tool, but really as part of our deep self-care that we really need extra for right now, and not the surface self-care, real self-care at a deep level, body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it is actually so interesting the fact that we live in a world where, yeah, there's so much consumerist bullshit, and it can always feel like there's always, oh, well, I can't because of this, or I can't because of that, or even something I'm sure you encounter a lot would be, I would expect people confusing singing ability with doing vocal work, right? So like I work with people with like creativity and things like that, and there's often that like I'm not an artist thing, and it's like that's not the fucking point. It is, everybody has these tools, and you know what's the point of going out and buying a bunch of other shit when you already have so much that you can work with right here for free, that you can connect with more deeply, that's available to you at any given time. Like you could wake up at 2:30 in the morning and practice for 5 minutes, and that's going to move the needle more than probably anything out there that you could get in like a metaphysical shop or anything like that. So yeah, I love that you say that.
People are sometimes surprised to find out that I don't own crystal singing bowls. Like they're like, "What?
Mm.
You don't even have one?" And I'm like, "I know it is a little bit funny now. I should get one, but it's because my passion and emphasis has really always been on the vocal instrument.
Yeah.
And but I like those singing bowls. I have a few of the Tibetan brass singing bowls, but just not those big white beautiful crystal singing bowls. And I suppose it is also a reflection of my values, that it's like, well, I'll spend my money on other instruments. I like to use my voice.
Well, and using the voice is something that is so, I mean, fuck, you can have it anywhere, and it can just, there was this one time I was going through a really hard, like you live a block away from me, so you might have even seen this when the neighbor drove into our car and totaled it outside in
Beautiful.
our driveway. So that was like a hard season of life I was going through at that time. Beyond that, that was like the little cherry on top of like a bullshit Sunday that I was having that for like a year and a half. And it was so funny because I had this breakdown in the car, and I started like channeling this voice, and it was very strange sounding, but I kind of just was like, ah, and then all of a sudden it came out in this really beautiful but guttural but strange way, and like I just bawled my eyes out. After that I was like, what in the Sam fuck was that? But it was so restorative, and it just came out of nowhere, and it was crazy because it didn't require me setting time aside, it didn't require an intention, it literally all it required was me to feel my feelings very deeply in that moment and allow something to move through me.
Mm, powerful. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Just let it come through.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then I only ever had a situation like that because I definitely probably am like an ideal person for you because I have that like block when it comes to the voice, right? And so it's a lot harder for me to like sing. Like I would never, well, not never, never say never.
Mhm.
I am certainly not in a space in my life where I would feel comfortable singing loudly, poorly, I would say at this point, in front of a bunch of people. But I had another situation where I channeled in the bath, and it was very beautiful. And sometimes when I do sound healing stuff, I'll let that stuff come through, but it's almost like there's this disconnect of like, you know, that's not me. I let that move through me, but like, what the hell was that? And then this immediate desire to kind of shut it down instead of allowing it to be what it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, unfortunately, there's so much conditioning around singing, and that and perfection,
Yeah.
or like skill, like only skilled or trained singers are like the only ones allowed to sing or something. It's really quite yeah, it is really quite ridiculous. And as a witch and with parents that were recovering Catholics, I didn't grow up in the church, and I'm not really about the church and its bureaucracy. However, there is a huge gap in our society now that really was filled with the regular weekly touch points where we would gather in communion and we would raise our voices. Now, not all churches or different religions, but especially the ones that did, often I hear that from my clients, that they, in fact, that's the only sweet memories from church of their youth, was that the singing of the hymns. Because we have since the beginning of time. Early humans, we have used our voices and our bodies and made, hide drums and rattles to raise our voices in devotion to the great mystery. And so now in this modern era, and that, kind of becoming less and less, there is I think a gap in missing that. And now it's like only the good singers can sing, whereas before I really feel that there was more like, or even just like pub culture
Yeah.
in the British Isles. Now we're just
Yeah.
anyone at the bar, the pub would just raise their voices in song. And I hope that we will see a shift back in the generations to come, where there's just more communal gatherings, more people coming together and singing. And because it's so healing, it's fun, it fosters connection and community, and it just does so much good for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's one of these things that we've lost touch with as like a species for sure. Um, it was definitely something that came up when I was writing Feral Self-Care, the book version, is that there's these things that are really just, I think, qualities and characteristics of being a human being and living in this earthly experience that we now kind of cut off and hold off in this like weird side, like, oh, well, if you have time to do that, like, here's your self-care. It's going to be like, a chore or like something on your to-do list that you're actually not doing and feeling bad about, when really it's like storytelling, gathering in community, sharing food, singing, drumming, dancing, making animal movements. Like all of these things I think are just so inherent to the human like creature. And yet we kind of, in our modern context, we're like, I'm gonna put on my button up and I'm gonna sit in my car and I'm gonna have a coffee and like I'm doing real human grown up adult things. And I hate it so much, Flora. I hate it so much.
Well, that's likely because there's a part of you, just like there's a part of many of us, that like intrinsically or intuitively remember when
Yeah,
things were different. And you just gave some great examples about how our kind of, our soul self-care used to be just woven in with our days. And
yeah,
it was very communal. And we were getting through life together. We had
yeah,
to. Like we had to all really work together to literally survive the winter. Nowadays, when we talk about surviving the winter, we're talking about our mental health usually
yeah,
only, right? Like not too many of us actually know people that would literally die if they didn't have the resources to get through the winter, right?
yeah,
So we've yeah, now we're in this very isolated, modern, fast-paced world where now we have to schedule our self-care, and the self-care that we are told to do or to schedule in, like you have said, can be very surface level. Or
yeah,
sure, it might be a nice facial for the skin, but is that actually soothing the nervous system?
yeah,
Not if
yeah,
you're not doing it intentionally. And that's the other
yeah,
thing too. You could do a face mask and it could be very intentional, and you could be meditating or writing in your journal or doing an oracle reading as well while it's drying. But so many of us are just rushing. Oh, I haven't done this, or like not doing it at all, and then just beating ourselves up for it, which isn't good for us on any level.
no, oh my gosh, yes, like everything you're saying, I'm like, yep, that's exactly it. And it is really a shame because we do have these tools at our disposal just within our bodies, right? Like our breath, our voice. And it's something that we tend to take for granted in this like really profound way, when really there's certain situations, like I know I felt really full of like, ugh, all this crazy shit. And it's like, bitch, just scream into like a pillow. That is a tool that you have at your disposal at any given time. You just need to let yourself do that shit. But it's like we're all kind of in this prison, this like sort of an expectation or societal kind of prison of what we think is acceptable behavior. And I think that's why maybe it's so fun to go off the rails, right, Flora? Like, isn't it fucking fun to go off the rails? And like, it's like, when you get if you drink too much and then all of a sudden you're singing and you're having a good time and you're like keep connecting with your friends, or if you know, get a chance where you're on vacation to kick your shoes off and like run through a field or frolic a little bit, it ends up feeling so healing and so restorative. But in terms of like the energy expenditure you're putting in versus what you get back, it's like that's the fucking ratio we're going for. It's like, no, you just have to follow your impulse.
Yeah.
And then after that, the returns you get from that is like priceless.
Hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just go into
Yeah.
it.
So, so Flora, can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you do with like creatives, the work that you do with entrepreneurs and business owners on the vocal stuff? I know you're coming in for the collective, but I'm just curious because I know there's a lot of creatives that follow me here, and I work with authenticity and self-expression. And I think this is such a really cool, unique dimension of what you're doing when it comes to this kind of sound healing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I do, I mean, I have a couple different offers and different ways that I support people to meet their goals. Like, for example, I do have like a songwriting, an intuitive singing and songwriting program that for people that want to begin to write or develop their own chants, their own songs, and really just to open up their channel to start receiving and this is without any music training. You don't need formal music training to really learn how to intuitively song craft. I call it song crafting rather than writing. But as far as entrepreneurs, how I support entrepreneurs, it's again the vocal coaching is a lot about clearing those blocks, getting that confidence, and yes, working on some basic vocal techniques that some people want to use in a singing context, even if it's simple opening chant or closing chant, not, big song productions. But some of my clients, they really are just for speaking. They want the vocal confidence for speaking, for doing a live video like this, for being able to be interviewed. And also, like I said earlier, just writing. As an entrepreneur, there's so much writing that we need to do. So that communication channel, having that creativity flowing. And then the other big way that I support entrepreneurs is really how to market your magical business, how to market your sacred work, your spiritual services. And because my career background is in marketing, so it's like marketing strategy, content inspiration, getting clear on what their real pillars are in their business to talk about, and just and offering that support and mentorship that way.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love that so much. I was so excited. Okay, so if you guys are just joining us now, just for a little bit of context. So I said before, Flora and I are neighbors. Our kids go to the same school and we kind of like saw each other through the years here and there. And it was so cool that we finally have gotten to connect. I'm sorry that this was not in person, but we will definitely be in person very soon. Uh,
Right.
but it's been so amazing to recognize, because I'm very much a solitary practitioner. And it was so cool to be like, okay, so there's this like amazing, super cool witchy person that lives literally like a fucking block away from it. Like, I swear I could throw something at your house, Flora. It's so exciting to
I
me.
I had I had to warm you up to me for quite a while. I would just be like, happy full moon, or like happy equinox when we were on the days, and invite you to my circles, and you would just be like, I'm busy that night. And I was like, she's quite solitary.
The problem is I'm literally always working. I have like written 5 books and a deck in the last like 4 years. So it's, yeah. So
I,
unfortunately, my free time is so limited, but it was so exciting that we got to connect finally. And I wanted to thank you so much. So if you are just joining us now, Flora is going to be in the upcoming April season of the Feral Self Care Collective. The season is called Frolic, and it's all about kind of playing in the realm of the self. Now, the Feral Self-Care Collective always is all about orienting towards joy, positivity, creativity, rebellious optimism, and hope, because the world is a fucking shit show. And we all want to be the calm, grounded, beautiful, wonderful, creative energy we want to see in the world. If we want our lives to be more playful, we need to bring more play in. If we want our lives to be more creative, we need to bring more creation in. And I was super excited to have you come in to give a session on awakening the voice, because I think that this is something that, again, is very accessible to people if they learn the tools to do it. So with this program, our intention is that, people, well, people, definitely me, read all the books and learn all the things and like do all the tools, but then when it comes to actually implementing them on an ongoing basis, there can be this disconnect or this block, because usually there's deep-seated feelings of feeling like you're selfish, or that, it's frivolous or something like that. And so our intention is for 12 weeks to hold people in this frequency of like, at least once a week, we're going to be doing some shit. You're going to be actually implementing some shit or having an experience. And we're so excited to get you on to do the Awakening Your Voice session. So do you have just like a quick description of what that session is going to be like for anybody here that might be curious about joining the collective?
Well, sure. Well, first of all, though, I just want to say this is the kind of support that people really need. It's the accountability, and it's the week after week, and it's the helping that motivation and that inspiration to really start some new habits. Right. So I'm
Mhm. Yeah.
very inspired about how you're offering this. It's so affordable too, what you're offering. So join Frolic. Why are you even sitting on the fence? Join Frolic. Come Frolic
Yeah.
with us. And and I'm just one of a few amazing guest teachers. And yeah, so my session, Awakening the Voice, will be easy, very practical, and very affordable ways, because they're not going to cost anything, to use your voice in whatever capacity that you're being inspired to. So different options. I'm going to give some like practical examples. It's going to be experiential as well, because it's sound healing and voice work is definitely one of those things. Sure, we can talk all about it, but until someone experiences it and feels the difference, because it's vibrational, until someone feels it, they don't really know what the potential is there for them. So it's going to be fun, it's going to be experiential, and it's going to be playful, and at the same time while being powerfully healing.
Yeah, and I'm super looking forward to it. Selfishly, partly because I want to learn it, and I want to be able to have those tools as well, because those two experiences I had of channeling something vocally that I was like, I don't know what the fuck that was. It was such a powerful release, and it felt almost like a fog had lifted. Like I felt like my vision was clear, my thoughts were clear, my channels were clear, everything after that. And it was something that I didn't intentionally want to happen. So I would love to be able to learn the tools to be able to intentionally try and force that bitch to happen again, because it was a good fucking time.
Good point, because often we can have these kind of like miraculous or spontaneous moments, and they're beautiful and amazing and gratitude, and yet, yes, of course, there's ways to actually then have some training to actually sit down and be like, I'm doing that again.
Yes. Yeah, and what we're finding in this season of the collective, at least, so we have 6 guest speakers this season, just like we're going to have next season, is that people are actually having really profound experiences in these sessions. There's replays available, but in the live sessions as well, I'm having a lot of really good feedback of people being like, oh my God, I can't believe that this happened, or that happened, or I had this experience. And it's funny, because there's something I think about the collective energy of having a group. And I believe that groups come together for a purpose. So the souls that come together in a group is all kind of these cohorts are built on something energetically, and they have their own frequency, which is why it's kind of fun to be able to switch it up every 3 months. But even it just goes to show that you don't need a ton of time. Like if you learn something that works and you have an experience that can be really profound, it's not something that you need to like, I need to go to a retreat in the mountains for 3 months or something. It's like, no, you can actually like learn these tools and do them quickly and on the fly. Because I think that if things are not, it's not to say that higher level, deeper, more time, attention, energy, commitment stuff isn't worth its value as well. But I think a lot of what is missing in our day to day life, in our mundane kind of Western culture reality, is the little bits and these little pockets of magic here and there that we can provide for ourselves. And so I'm really, really, really excited for that. And girl, I'm so fucking grateful that you're coming on for this.
Yay! I'm grateful too. Thank you, Mandy.